One of the things that struck me in the book that was, I think, fantastic advice, and I'd love to get you to comment on, how you personally put this into action. One piece of advice you gave to your readers is finally take care of yourself. A president cannot lead with energy and good judgment if not rested and healthy. It's easy to be overwhelmed by crime, the media, the needs of your employees and students, and the needs to communicate and take care of your team. Right. So that was, one of the closing pieces of advice of a very difficult chapter in the book. Whether it's in under times of extreme stress or just the day to day, how do you really put that into action?
Well, you just got to make it happen, and if you don't, then you're going to fail. And again, I can go back, to, and maybe I learned this coming out of the pandemic. There was a point in the book that I needed to call the faculty senate chair because we were implementing some emergency procedures that really affected the power balance between the faculty senate and the administration. But I was exhausted. I was just exhausted. I'd spent all week dealing with petitions and the Department of Health and COVID issues, left and right, and I just couldn't, and literally didn't get it done. And there wasn't a lot of fallout from that, but just because the chair of the faculty senate was a good person and understood where I was coming from. But that I was no longer effective at that point, and I couldn't make good decisions, and just literally physically just couldn't do anymore. And I think I learned a lot out of that. So fast forward to the crimes, and I made it a point during those crimes to take care of myself. I continued my workouts. I got up early and worked out. I was in bed early. I was, eating the right things. I was spending time with the right people, and I had a lot of time where I just had to have time to be alone to think through things, and we made time in my schedule to do that. And I would encourage. That was such a better situation than through the pandemic, the early days of the pandemic, and so I would encourage leaders, CEOs, and all senior leadership. To make that time for themselves and to take care of themselves when you're in the middle of a crisis, because you're not doing anyone any good if you can't make good decisions and if you're not available.
I mean, that I think is total role model material right there. Talk about tone from the top. Somebody who is, it's one thing to have somebody say, oh, go take care of yourself and so on, and then, not to be role modeling it. So I think that's, absolutely crucial as people see you walking the talk. And, I'm wondering, you talked about spending time with the right people. There are, lots of folks who make time for quote unquote right people based on those other individuals, status and what they can get from them and so forth. When you said the right people, what did you mean by that?
Yeah. So, well, people who could help us get through the crisis. So I was spending time with law enforcement and building those relationships. I was spending time with our students who were grieving, and understanding what they needed. A lot of people, a lot of adults were saying you need to shut the university down, but many of the students were saying, no, we need to be together. I need to be with my friends at this time, and so by being with the right people, I mean being out in the community and understanding what was happening so that we could make decisions that were right for us, not what others from outside our community were telling us would be the right thing to do. And I found that, that approach incredibly helpful. So the status thing, I've never really looked at titles. It's like, what do we need to do next? Who do I need to hear from to make a decision?